Hey, fellow gardeners. This is Beverly with Granny Geek Gardens, and today we're doing my April 2024 backyard garden tour. Before we get started, I'd like to apologize if my voice gets raspy. I've been fighting with hay fever so bad. Um, But if I put this off much longer, it's going to be May. So we're going to give it a try. And here we go into the backyard. Got lots of stuff blooming right now with more to come. As we enter the backyard, I've got a great Japanese maple. Um, it's just very happy there. It's been there for, 30, 35 years. And I really do very little to it other than clean off the dead foliage and give it a bit of water and fertilizer now and then. And next to that, we've got uh, a Pieris Japonica. I planted a series of them about the same time I planted the Japanese maple. I've kind of limbed them up and put them kind of almost in a tree form. I try to keep them topped off about 10 to 12 feet. Every couple of years, we've got to go up and cut the tops off, or I don't know how tall they'd grow, but they start drooping over. And at the end of the line of the Pieris Japonica, we've got pink dogwood blooming very nicely. At the entry, got a couple of small garden areas. I just kind of reworked them, divided stuff, moved things around. That fern in the back, I cut it way back. It was over closer to the edge and it was intruding on the walkway, so I moved that. There are a couple of hardy upright fuchsias on either side of that, and they won't even be showing any growth for another month or two. It's still being too cold. Couple of different hostas. Um, the white one's really interesting. I planted it 3 years ago. I think it's called lipstick. Um, anyway, it's completely kind of a creamy white color and it's very slow growing. Most of the other hostas that I planted about the same time, I've had to divide, move, whatever. And that one just kind of, it keeps going, but it doesn't go very fast. And here's my pile of stuff that still needs to be planted. Well, I should say one of my piles of stuff that still needs to be planted. Been working at getting this garden cleaned up a little bit. Got an azalea coming into bloom in the back. And in front of that, I've put a trellis. My husband redid the heating unit for the jacuzzi, and we've just got this ugly metal thing sticking up. So I put a trellis there, and I think I'm going to try to train something to either climb the trellis to kind of shield that a little bit, or I've got kind of almost like a window box contraption that I can clip on to the upper area of the trellis, and with a coconut liner, put something that will droop down. I just haven't decided which one to do yet. And this poor rhododendron, I think it's had it. There are a couple of viable flower buds on it. I'm going to let it bloom out and then cut it clear down to about the level of the lower deck. Give it one more chance and see if I can recuperate it, but it's really, really sad and suffering. This garden has an assortment of things. We've got a stilby and foxglove, and here's a bobo hydrangea that's just barely starting to peek out a few leaves. There are some hostas, a Virginia, a lot of shady types of plants. And of course, we've got to have some heuchera in there. The foxgloves, for those of you that don't know, are native plants to this area, and they are biennials. The first year, they grow a little bit. For instance, that's a first year one, but they typically don't bloom. The second year, they grow a lot, and I should have bloom stalks on them that are usually 4 to 5 feet tall in another month or so. Still have quite a bit of cleanup to do in this garden, and things that need to be divided. That daylily's kind of gone insane, and that needs to be divided. Deciduous azaleas just starting to bloom. It's really beautiful when it's out in full bloom, but it kind of doesn't mix very well with the pink on the dogwood and so on. But anyway, it's pretty anyway. And then we've got some Columbine blooming here. I think purple must be a predominant color for Columbine. I've planted a lot of different colors of Columbine, yet most of the time, the next year they come back purple. I've got a few other colors, but the vast majority seem to cross with the purple and end up being purple. We've got a limelight hydrangea. It's just started leafing out. And right next to that is an old hydrangea. It blooms blue because we have acidic soil. If the soil was a higher pH, it would bloom pink. And we've got some sedum and let's go back to the other side. And starting here with the Japanese maple again. This heuchera, I think it's a caramel one, is just happy as can be. Still got to mulch this area. Got it mostly cleaned up. But there are still several plants that are just teeny tiny and barely breaking the soil. And then we get to the part that I haven't even got the weeds pulled or raked up or anything yet, but I'm working on it. By the end of the summer, it'll be cleaned up. These japonicas are so big. They're so beautiful when they're blooming and so messy after the blooms are finished. Want to plant a couple of more hostas in this area of different kinds. And here we've got a strawberry vanilla or vanilla strawberry hydrangea. I can never remember which way that goes. And a lot of weeds that need to come out of there. And this rose bush is just going crazy. Should have some blooms coming in on it here before too long. And this area needs a major cleanup, but I want to let the irises bloom first, and then they need to come out and be divided, and I need to completely rework this area. I've been wanting to do something to this back fence, and I got to thinking I had a pot of star jasmine on the deck that was really growing. And I decided to bring it down, and I think I'm going to plant it down here and see if I can train. Some of these branches are really quite lengthy. See if I can train them to grow on the fence and kind of cover the fence so I'm not looking at that fencing material all the time. But again, I want to wait till the irises bloom, which won't be much longer. And here I've got the roses that I removed from the area beside the garage that used to be in sun, and then the neighbor's trees grew and they weren't doing very well. You know, I dug them up, I put them in some pots, and they seem to be surviving. So I'm going to just let them grow in pots the rest of the year. And then this winter, when they're dormant, I'll find new homes for them. And this trumpet vine, I'm slowly but surely working on getting it ripped out of there. You know, the hummingbirds love it. It was very well behaved for a number of years. But suddenly, over the last 3 years, once I started fertilizing things and watering things and so on, it's got out of hand and it needs to come out of there. But I think that's going to be a couple of year project. And as we proceed down this walkway, there are more irises that are getting ready to bloom and a couple more rose bushes. And let's go back to the other side. Okay, this is the front side of the deck. We've got the green stalks and sorted other plants that are looking for homes. And this area, I planted a number of plants last year. They're very small. There are a couple more that I need to get planted in here. I need to look up the names. We've got, there's 2 or 3 hydrangeas along here. Heuchera, astilbe, and I stuck a black lace elderberry over here. It's just a tiny little plant still, but it should get quite large if it, decides it likes the area. I wanted something to kind of hide the hose link a little bit. And I'm gonna put a couple of pots at either end of this walkway to try to make sure that people and dogs don't go running through the flower beds. And the farther we move around here, the less maintenance I've done. Here we've got a couple more of the deciduous hydrangeas, or excuse me, deciduous azaleas. They've got buds, but they're not blooming yet. And over here, we have the rhododendron that really suffered in the excessive heat we've had the last couple of years. Last fall, it looked close to dead. I cut it way, way, way back, and it seems pretty happy. At least it's blooming real nice. The foliage still leaves much to be desired, but mostly what you can see is the old foliage from last year. And the new stuff that's coming out looks pretty healthy. So I'm hoping it's going to come back, and I need to just make sure that it gets plenty of water, and see if I can plant some things around it that will give it a little bit more shade. I did plant a Weigela over here. They're supposed to grow pretty fast, but I haven't grown them before, so we'll see. I'm just kind of hoping that that will help with the shade. And once I finish getting this bed planted out, there's going to be a lot of larger plants that can hopefully lend some shade to that height rhododendron as we progress into the summer months. Got lots of things to plant in here. Most of the stuff that's already been planted is just barely coming up. And next month we should see a whole lot more. Some more of the plants I haven't got planted yet. And this area just needs a lot of TLC. And back across the way. This lilac tree, it's just about bloomed out. It smelled heavenly a couple weeks ago. And here's another Columbine. And these weedy fern things, I've got to see if I can get my husband to dig them out. They just are determined to stay here, and I don't like them. I like the sword ferns fine, but these kind of lacy things are just real weedy and they spread like crazy. And the farther we move around, the less maintenance has been done, but there's still lots of pretties. Lots and lots of columbine in this garden area. Usually later in the year when the blooms are done, I take at least one of the dried out stems and just shake a lot of seeds all over this area. I'm hoping eventually it will be a solid bed of columbine in the spring. And just above the columbine, we've got some wisteria. And here are some Shasta daisies. I know there are several other things in there. I think there's yep, that's a little tiny peony that's almost being choked by weeds. I just got a whiff of flowers. And my nectarine that I planted last year is growing nicely. And then I've got lots and lots and lots and lots of mulch and potting mix and things that I need to deal with. I haven't done a whole lot in the garden yet. We've got a rabbit that is living in that firewood pile under the tarp. And I got a catch and release trap to try to catch it and get it out of here before I plant things. So far, it isn't interested. And then we've got an assortment of, this is a golden raspberry, and we've got a couple of thornless blackberries and a marionberry. And on the other side, got 4 pots of blueberries. And this is my plant stash. When I divide plants and I don't know quite what to do with them yet, they go in this area. I need to move them out and see what I've got in there. The squirrels love to come down and wreak havoc on this stuff, and they still have covering of lots of leaves and so on. But most of the time, if I need some special plant, like right now, I can find something in this stash that will fit the bill. And then I've got a couple of metal beds to fill up with compost and so on, to plant out. One of them is going to go over here where the strawberry bed was. I want to dig up a few of those strawberries, and a friend wants some of them, but they're just June bearing strawberries, although they're very tasty. So those are going to get dug up, and one of the beds is going to go here, and the other one is going to go on the other side somewhere. I have to measure it out and see where it's going to fit exactly. But although we're a zone 9A, it's still pretty cold. We haven't had any frost for quite some time, but it also isn't very warm. Nighttime temperatures are still usually in the 40s, once in a while in the 50s. Daytime temperatures are upper 50s to low 70s. And, you know, a lot of veggies just don't like things that cold. The last couple of years, I found that I started seeds way too early, and I put plants out too early, and they would just sit there for quite some time before they decided to start growing. So this year, I'm trying to focus on the flower beds, and I'll worry about the vegetable gardens in May, and not get stressed out about it. Meanwhile, I do have a lot of seeds started in my plant room, like 20 different kinds of tomatoes, and um, 7 or 8 different kinds of onions, and all sorts of different things. I've got some artichoke seeds planted for the first time. I've never tried growing artichokes before. And last year, for the first time, I grew cantaloupe, and they were wonderful. So I'm going to be growing a lot of cantaloupe this year. But that's it for today. Thank you for stopping by. If you find this interesting, please subscribe, like, share, all that good YouTube-y kinds of stuff. This is Beverly signing off. Take care. Be kind. Bye-bye.